Alright, hello boys and girls, moms and dads. Welcome to Heroes Homeschool Academy. This is 5th grade science. And this is going to be week number 15, part of our curriculum. So today we're going to be talking about conductors and insulators. We're going to expect the student to be able to define what a conductor is and what an insulator is, and to be able to differentiate between a conductor and an insulator, and give examples of conductors and examples of insulators as well. So what is a conductor? Well, a conductor is a material that allows electricity or heat to pass through it. The atomic structure of a conductor contains loose electrons that can flow from particle to particle across the entire surface of that object. So if an electrical charge is transferred from one aspect of the object, that charge is going to be distributed to other parts of the object because of this flow of electrons. So examples of electrical conductors are going to be things like metals. So there are different kinds of metals. Iron, aluminum, silver, copper are going to be examples. And all of these are going to be conductors. Why? Because they allow electricity and heat to pass through them. Well, other category of conductors are going to be things like aqueous solutions. In other words, solutions that have salts in them. So for example, the human body can conduct electricity. That's the reason you do not want to grab a hold of live wire, because it can shock you, and that can be dangerous. So these are examples of conductors. Most electrical conductors also conduct heat. In other words, they allow heat to pass through them, just like electricity is going to be allowed to pass through these materials. What about insulators? Well, an insulator is going to be a material that does not allow electricity to pass through it. So think about it. Insulators does not allow. Conductors allow. Okay, you can use that to remember a little bit. So an insulator is not going to allow electricity to pass through it or heat to pass through it. The insulator is going to behave exactly in the opposite way to a conductor. Alright, examples of insulators are going to be wood. Another example, I believe, is carbon, even though some people argue that carbon in different conditions can act like a poor conductor. But for the most part, because it's a non-metal, and non-metals are insulators, such as wood, carbon, cloth, rubber, plastic, dry air, and so on and so forth. Alright, then there is this third category of materials that we call semiconductors. And as the name depicts for you over there, semiconductor is going to be a material that can conduct electricity a little bit, but is not really too conductive. So these are materials that are not as conductive as metals, and they are not as insulative as non-metals. They can be used to carry electrical charges under certain conditions. So examples of these are going to be silicon and germanium. Alright, so let's look at this conductivity continuum over here. It just tries to show us how conductive certain materials are relative to other materials. So if you look to the right of this chart over here, you are going to see conductors, which are going to be metals. The least conductive here is the human body, even though it conducts electricity. And the most conductive over here is going to be silver. And then after the human body, there's going to be water. After water, it's going to be mercury. And then iron and aluminum and copper and silver. So silver is the most conductive of the metals we can see on the chart over here. Next, copper is going to be more conductive than aluminum. Aluminum is going to be more conductive than iron, and iron is going to be more conductive than mercury. And then, you know, the rest of the story goes like that. Then in the non-metals or the non-conductive category, the most non-conductive or the insulative is going to be rubber. Rubber is the most insulative in this category. The least insulative is going to be dry air. Okay, and then wood is going to be more insulated than dry air, and you can see this to remember what I just talked about over there. All right, so you've got a homework right now for me. What are conductors? All right, you can remember that. Conductors are going to be things that can allow electricity or heat to pass through them. What is the difference between a conductor and an insulator? Conductor is going to let electricity pass through it, but it's not going to let. But an insulator is not going to let electricity pass through it. List some examples of conductors. What you're going to see over here. Examples of insulators you're going to see over here. And if you want to list further examples, just go ahead and turn to what we talked about last week in week number 14. You are going to see all metals over here. They are going to be in the conductive category of things. And then non-metals, which are going to be represented by the blue box around them, they are going to be in the non-conductive category of things over there. All right. So did you get something from today's lesson, week number 15? I want to thank you, boys and girls, for joining me today. Remember, God cares about you, and so do we. Bye-bye.
I'll be your hero's buddy, and as you study with Heroes Ball.